IAM. So IAM roles are entities, okay? This is a tricky one. Okay. So this provides a specific permission to not the users, to other services itself. And this is a very, very common question coming almost on all junior or mid-level interviews in AWS. What is difference between roles and policies? Okay, very frequently asked. So it is important to understand. Okay, so IAM roles are entities that are created to assign a specific permission on other entities. Entities could be generally some resources. You one resource can access other resource. Okay, and that permission, that policy, when you apply on that resource, that process of creating this is called the role. Okay, so for example, any number of any entity like user or service, a service can assume a role and get the permission defined in that role. Okay, so for example, this is like a IAM role. Okay, this IAM role is easy to assume policy. This is slightly different if you see. Here it is telling the service and action is STS assume role. Assume. Okay. So what happens here is that a service can assume a particular role. What that means, for example, let's say that I am Chandra. Okay. I am not administrator. Okay. But I'm deputy to the administrator. My administrator is on leave. So I assume the role of the administrator for the day, right? Let's say, according to the constitution, president has all the highest, power. But let's say president is sick, okay, is not available for some reason, and there is some urgent situation. Someone has to take the decision. Okay, president is sick. Let's say he's getting treatment or something. Who will take the decision? Vice president will take the decision, right? That's why we have president and the vice president concept, isn't it? So in that case, the vice president who's taking the role, you see, vice president has not become the president. That is the difference. He is just assuming the role to become the president. When president is back, he will give away that role. In fact, the person himself is actually in the role, right? For example, Biden is just taking the role of president, right? He's not born president. It's not kingdom, right? It's not a monarchy. It's not like by birth you get. You assume the role. You have won the trust of the citizens of the country. You have gotten the role for 5 years. You have to win the trust again. You have win the votes again, and you again get the role. So that is the concept of role. A temporary, privilege. Getting the point? And this policy, this what you apply on that role or that you give on that is kind of your constitution. This is a very common example I give in every class to understand it. Constitution. I'm not sure how if there is any details of this, but majorly I believe there is a constitution. Constitution defines the rules of the president. So till yesterday, okay, the person who was vice president, I don't know who is that, what is the name of vice president? Harris, right? Kamala Harris, right? So till yesterday, Kamala Harris, let's say, didn't have executional power, okay. But if the president is not available, she has assumed the role, and the role has given her certain number of privileges. Those are defined in the Constitution. Those permissions, those privileges are your policies. Okay, so this is how we can assume a role. You can assume your role, server can assume a role, and object can assume a role. Any service in EC2 AWS can assume a role to perform other actions on other resources. So in this case, anyone who is assuming this role will have full access to EC2. Okay, principal, yeah, EC2. EC2 will have full access if it assumes this role. Okay, and what is going to be the policy, that we'll see. Okay, so for example, okay, we will go ahead, okay, and create a role. Okay, so everyone, please go to your console and click on create role. Okay, so let's say what service you want the role to be applied on. Who will assume this role? So you cannot randomly allow anyone, right? Constitution has allowed only the vice president to assume the role of the president, right? A mayor of a city cannot assume the role, right? Not authorized. So this is what you are defining here, that only the EC2 can access this role. Sounds good? So I have given this on EC2. Next, you tell what permission you are giving. What permission can the vice president take? So let's say vice president can take, okay, S3 full access. EC2 can take full access, S3 full access. You select next. Okay, and role name, let's give it CP class. I'm just giving so that I know it's not required. Okay, you can give any name. Okay, I'm giving EC2, okay, S3 full. So it is giving S3 EC2 full access on S3. This is my naming convention. You give it whatever you want. You write the whole description within 64 characters is your call. Generally, you will write this in description. Okay. Role allow EC2 to get full all S3 bucket. That's good. Give it a tag. Let's say environment is, let's say, test environment, not prompt. You click on create role and you have created this role. Who can take this role? Only EC2 can take this role. Who can take this role? Only the vice president can take the role. Okay, generally you have a chain of sequence in the constitution given. If there is no president, vice president. If there is no vice president, probably then the house a member probably, or I think chair or the senior someone takes. If he is not available, then he, like this, right? There is a sequence of that. So similar to that. Okay, so you have gotten this role. Now let's see the magic of this. Okay, so let's say I try to connect this. Okay, so you can see it is unable to verify because this user has only EC2 access, right? He doesn't have this permission to do all of this. So this user cannot perform. Let me use this user. I do not know who this server is. Oh, where is the server? Oh, okay. I'm supposed to be in north. Okay, I click on this. Okay. Okay, so it seems this one has a security group. Okay, let's not touch his server. Oh, Okay, I will create better my own so that I don't mess up his understanding of the resources. I'll just create a server here. I like Ubuntu. I will give this one. I'm just giving SSH and launch the instance. Let's wait for this to come. It will take probably 1 minute. And I'm not sure if I'm over the hour, but I'm taking you on a ride. So probably just finish, okay? And they will go for break then. Finishing this, we'll go for break. All right, so the server is ready. Let me connect to it. Okay, and yeah. So what you can really see here is that we created the server. We got access to the server, right? Let's say that, I want to host a website here, and the website will be showing some images, some videos, which is put in S3 bucket. Okay. So we have this S3 bucket, okay, and we want to just see what is in there, access the files. What are the different options from this server? How can we see list of objects? How can I get this file in this server? Anyone? I want to get this file in this server. How do I do it? Do you see this file?
You
How do I?
need like I don't know exactly the specifics. All I remember is you need that ARN, so you can actually identify it.
Identify using ARM. That is beautiful. Yeah. Okay. What else? What else can I do? I want to have this file inside my server.
You have to get your EC2 to assume the role first so that it has access to the S3 bucket, and then it'll make the request to pull the file from it.
File. Okay. So Tom is certified for sure. He directly gave the right answer. Okay. I was waiting for some lame answers first. For example, you can use this this link as well, right, to access this file if this is public, right? So if this bucket is public, you can open the link and you can access the file, right? So what I could do is like I can go here. Okay, what happened? Okay, it lost the connection. So here I could write wget, right? I can get the file here, right? That is for sure possible. But this is possible because this S3 bucket was public. If this S3 bucket is not public, you cannot access this directly. And then only option is what Tom was saying. One of the options. So what could be another option? Can someone tell me, like, let's say some other lame answer? Tell me some other hacky way of getting the file here. Let's say this bucket is now private. What do I do? If I do all public access, it will be private. What do I do? Some hacky ways, please. Come on, at least someone tell me that you can go ahead here and you can click download and you can go here and upload here. That is also possible, isn't it? I can download the file and I can put in this, right, using SCP. We're not using SCP, isn't it? Yeah, we can use SCP to do that for sure. That can be done. Yeah. Again, a bad way to do this. You have to download everything in your computer and put this again to the server. Some other hacky way.
Maybe like SSH into the S3 bucket from your server.
Okay, okay. That sounds an interesting idea. What is the opinion from anybody else about this idea? Or are you saying, come on, Chandra, just give me the answer. Don't twist around. Think, see, in your solution architect exam, especially in that solution architect exam, you're giving the scenarios. You know, none of the scenarios are wrong actually. All scenarios are correct. Even the scenario option would be that you go to AWS data center, you get the file in your computer, you go to another one and you upload that. That is also option there. Okay, I think it may work. You go with your ID proof and you say, hey, I own this. Where is my file? They tell you that, okay, on rack number 3, on this number server, you put your pen drive, you copy the file, and then you go to rack number 16, you put it there. That might work technically. But why Troy's idea will not work? Anyone?
Is that port exposed on the server that's like hosting the bucket? Like, are you able to make that sort of like SSH connection into the S3 bucket?
Yeah, that's a very valid question. In fact, first of all, that before you SSH, does this even allow SSH? So S3 is not a server. Okay, it is not a server which will allow you to do SSH. It's just object storage. Okay, it's not a server. So unfortunately, it is not possible to do SSH inside S3 bucket. Okay. So one of the idea that you can do is you can do AWS configure, right? You do AWS configure, you give the access key and password, and you access the files, right? For example, I can do this here, AWS S3 ls, I think this is the command. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's the command. Okay, I will do AWS S3 ls. You see, I see this, right? Using configure also you can do the same, right? Then what is the problem? Why are we learning role? Anyone?
Because I think you only want your EC2 to have that role until you grab the object or whatever you want from the S3 bucket, and then you wanted to drop that so that if anyone else gained access to your EC2 or something happened, they couldn't do the same things with that permission.
That's a very valid point, right? It would be like, being a president requires you just to have access to a certain room and, somehow, and the key is somewhere. Anyone who has the key becomes the president, right? So it's like leaving your keys. And, if you jump into the Capitol and you get that and you become the president, then, right? That doesn't work. It seems that you will tell that you are very politically exposed, Chandra, to US politics, is it? But
Just
I do,
take pictures while you're there. Just take pictures.
yeah. I do follow a lot, okay? I do follow a lot. Uh,
Is AWS configure command line, like admin command line, and that's why it's a high privileged thing? Or what is AWS configure?
Yeah. So essentially, AWS configure is kind of, taking the keys from AWS and storing it on your machine. This is your computer. You trust your computer. So you have put your pass access keys on this. But server you cannot trust because tens of developers will have access to the server. Anyone can hack and go inside the server, right? So configure is just a way to grab the keys and put it here. Okay, but those keys are exposed. This is just like keys have been kept there. Go here and take it, which is not safe, right? So what you can really do is you give the temporary access. Okay, you take the oath for becoming the president, right? Before the jury members and before the public, right? That I'm taking this oath, and the time invalidates, you lose that access, right? So the same way, okay, you can do that here as well. Okay, so let's try to do that now, and you can do here that AWS S3 LS is failing. Okay, it's not installed actually, first of all. Okay, okay, first of all, you will do sudo apt update. So you can see here, okay, let me install. Okay, so I'm installing it. I'm just giving you a demo. You don't need to do this. I'm just trying to explain the concept. Simply, I could tell you this is how it is. Another is, since I have the flexibility, I'm able to show you like how it works really. Okay, so here I could write AWS S3 LS. We can see there is no credentials, right? It is asking you to put credentials. Okay, if I put credentials, password will be, the access key will be stored on the server, not safe. So what I will do is I will give the temporary access using roles. Okay, I'm not sure why it is frequently asking me to log in, but that's okay. So what you will do is you will go to your server, okay, and you will click on action, and you can go to security, and you can provide here modify IAM role. Everyone, please follow this. Click on modify IAM role, and here you select the IAM role, EC2 S34. That's it. You do not have to give any password to get the access. Right? Because you assumed the role to have access to S3. So that is the concept and idea behind roles. Any questions?
So like later on down the road, like let's say we wanted like our EC2 to like if any like if we want a certain file, we want it to trigger a Lambda that'll go grab it from the S3. Would you set could you set like two separate policies, like one for the EC2 to trigger the Lambda and then one for the Lambda to grab it from the bucket?
Totally. Yeah, you're right. So any entity who is performing the action that needs permission, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for example, let's say I say that, no, go to the office and grab the file. Okay. I have the permission. The person whom I ask, he doesn't have the permission. So even though I'm telling him go and get it, he will not get it, right? Because he doesn't have the permission. Unless I take a letter or some ways to prove that Chandra is authorizing this, he won't get it, right?
So I'll ask a newbie question. If you are doing automation setup like that, and you have users, humans, do you have like computer roles or non-human entity roles that you create, non-human permissions?
Right. So in this case, what happens is that this role, okay, this role is made to be assumed only by EC2. So only the machines can, only EC2s can assume this role. Okay. Though you can create roles which can be assumed by, any other thing, like a human. Okay. So you can give the human's account ID, human gets the access. Like you give her the access to, let's say, some other service, Lambda, Lambda gets access. But good question. It was a good question, Troy. All right. So that was the lesson on roles, everyone. Okay. So I just performed you the lab. Okay. How to do this. You may have not been able to follow all of that because you don't need to really create a server to do this. It was just to explain you concept. If you want, you can go ahead and try that. Okay. So how is IAM used in AWS and all? This finishing we will do after 15 minutes break is fine, or 20. Okay. All right. So let's go for a 15 minutes break. Okay. And returning, we will continue on this lesson. And sorry for the longer stretch. So after finishing understanding role, let's see how IAM is used in AWS. So IAM can be, used in a very different ways. So one is that you're using console, okay, using interface, you can access this using CLI. We have seen that, you can run the same commands. Then SDKs support is there. So using SDK, software development kit, you can use Python, has a library called Boto3. Okay. So AWS Python Boto3 library also gives you the access to perform any of these actions. So let's say you want to create a server using Python functions itself, you can actually create servers. Okay, so you can create server, pass the parameter 2, it will create 2 servers. Okay, so something like that. Okay, it provides you all those. For example, you can say this one EC2. So here you can search. You can see here create. Yeah, you can see create subnet, create space, create instance like this. All these functions are available in this. Like this, you can perform many of these actions. Okay. So regardless of whichever way you go, you use CLI, console, SDKs at the end, they hit your AWS, console, AWS backend, and you get the access of the systems. Okay, so this is the lesson on roles. And if there is any question on role, I can take it. I just took, I think we just took some questions before. If it is any other, then I can take. Otherwise, I'll go to the concluding lesson. All right. So final topic for the day, and this lesson you will not be able to do. You may, if you really want, you can create another account with another email. Otherwise, just for your learning purpose, okay, is that AWS organization is a service, okay, which helps you to organize your account, multiple accounts in a very well structured format, in a very well structured hierarchy. So AWS IAM, okay, it is also kind of the similar part, okay. So you can see that this account is part of the service admin, okay. It's part of the service admin, and we are part of core Platoon organization. So whatever you do is actually kind of tracked there. So if I switch back, if I go to the main core Platoon account, okay, I will show you what is AWS organization. So AWS organization, will help you to group accounts, apply governance policies, and restore the accounts in different manners. So this is the main function of it. So you can see there are multiple accounts that we have, okay, and this is the account we are using right now. So AWS recommends that you create separate account for different purposes for different teams if needed. What that means is that if let's say you have a um, development team, production team, testing team, production team should have a different account. Don't put your production resources on the same account where you are doing the development. Why? Because it can have mistakes. Let's say you are running a server with here, okay, like here you have. So if you, by mistake, if you go and stop a server, it may stop your production server, right? That you do not want to do. By mistake, you want to avoid that event. So for that reason, you will have a separate account for that purpose. Okay. So that is the purpose of this. So there are many use cases. One is multi-account workflow. So AWS supports multi-account workflow. There, you will have separate production account, separate development, separate testing account. If your organization is very large, then you can have a different account for different teams as well. Okay, so let's say you are running, let's say, a very big online e-commerce website. Then you know that shipment is a totally different domain. So for all shipment services, you create different AWS account. For all search engine and products, you create different one, like that. Okay, so that is a multi-account workflow. Another is it provides you the security, because even by mistake, no one is accessing production server, right? Even if someone gets the, because it is a separate account. Okay, it ensures users access to designated resources. Okay, so right now, since it is in different account, I can control what happens inside the account. Okay, but still I can share the common resources. So for example, let's say there is one S3 bucket. Okay, there is one subnet. Okay, I can share the subnet with different accounts. I think I'm correct. Okay, I'm not 100%, but so you can actually share the subnets. Let's say you want to share some roles, you can actually share that. Okay, you want to share S3 bucket, I think you can share that S3 bucket as well. So you using organizations, you can though maintain separations, you can still share the resources. Let's say that AWS account, e-commerce company has both a shipments department and e-commerce product department. but both of them, okay, access the same database of a list of orders or something. Okay, that database is actually in the e-commerce account, but shipment also needs it. So you can actually share that. You have some network, you can share that. You have subnet, you can share that. So these are the features of AWS organizations. Again, it is a very light introduction. I am just going to show you how we have created that for our code platoon. So this is the root of the organization code platoon. Here we have multiple accounts. This is the management account, the owner of everything. Okay. And then this is the accounts which I use to create different accounts. You can see the last bootcamp, we just destroyed that account. We suspended the account. We created another account. So this way we are actually maintaining all DevOps bootcamps in this one. New bootcamp comes, we'll just place it there. Okay. So this is the hierarchy of this. This helps me to put certain conditions, certain rules. For example, I can apply policies here that, you know what, no DevOps account will have access to, let's say, RDS. Okay, let's say no DevOps account will have access to Kubernetes because it is very costly service or something like that. Those conditions I can apply right from here using SCPs. Okay, so what is SCP? SCP is the service control policy. Okay, so this is called service control policies. You have to enable, and here you can put certain kinds of conditions that what some account will need to. So it's a kind of a very simpler. You put kind of a deny condition. I can put a deny condition that no DevOps students will be able to create, account. You have used the account that you have, don't create new accounts. So I can put that account here. So I can go here, I can put IAM, okay, and you can create here, put the condition that create user. You can see here, create user. So it will deny the access to you. You see this? Overall, all account. So this is the benefit of using AWS organizations. Okay, you can do the account management at a very large scale. Sounds good, everyone? So this was a very short introduction and demo on AWS organizations. Okay, we cannot go in depth of this. It's again like not a very essential service as well. You may probably get one or two questions at all. What is AWS organization? The normal scenarios would be something like this, that you have two accounts. One is development and one is production. This is how AWS frames the questions, that XYZ company is facing difficulties from 3 days and they have this. Okay, what is the rightmost approach that you can organize accounts with least amount of access? Options. First option, okay, remove every user and reset the account. It may work, but very poor, right? You cannot remove every user. Second option could be like ask every user to come and log in front of the manager. May work, but very poor, right? Manager won't sit and get everyone to log in. And like that. And one of the options could be that use AWS organizations to organize. Again, the options won't be lame as what I am giving. It will be confusing, but at the end, this is what is the overall idea. Okay, so this is the way how AWS works. Okay, AWS has organized the IAM and policies and access management. I hope that you got a complete understanding of AWS suite of IAM policy services. Please let me know if you have a question on any part.
Just a quick question on scale, Chandra. So talking about developers and maybe a whole ecosystem that they develop in could be hosted in their one account, and then production and the whole production ecosystem in another account. And would you use like a whole separate account for IAM functionality, so across your organization, or do you keep like IAM consistent, in each environment, each account there across the organization?
No, you're correct. Okay, so the way how AWS has organized is that you there is a standard practices. In fact, I can share that later. But at the end, what AWS recommends is that what you are correct, that you have a billing and accounting department separate. Another one is IAM. So put all IAM account related, stuff in one account. Then all production related things in another account. So you are actually right in suggesting that AWS will recommend you to put all IAM related stuff in just one account, because IAM is very critical, right? If you get this wrong, anyone can has got an account. He will create another account, gives that account the admin permission, and use that account to actually do anything, right? Let's say you gave developers access to create a role. Okay, he creates a role that he can assume admin account. Though he was not admin, you gave the permission to create admin account. He took the role and becomes admin, right? So these kind of mistakes don't happen. For that reason, AWS does recommend that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I had one question about organizations. It's always one root user that creates an organization and then can give roles access to other people who want to join the organization? Or is there a way to, I'm thinking like when we make like group projects, it would always belong to one user, and then that user would have to then make roles for that organization for each individual member. We can't just share a central project across different roles or across different accounts. It would always belong to one person, right? Ultimately.
Your group project, it is in one of the person's account, right?
Because we made a group, repo, we made a group organization, but that's shared, right? We can give admin permissions, owner permissions to everyone in the organization.
Mhm.
But AWS, not really, right? Ultimately, it belongs to one root user, right?
Right. So in terms
Okay.
of permission, you can make everyone admin, right? Being admin is as good as being the root user. Only one less permission, that is the billing account.
Okay. So maybe I don't want
Yes,
to
well.
own it. Maybe I want someone else to own it. Okay.
Yeah.
No, we were wondering about that for a group project, so that clears things up. Thanks.
100%. What is the group project? I mean, it is related to your full stack bootcamp, or this one?
Oh, Tom can speak more about that. He
Really?
was pretty much our.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, it was for the full stack. It was that like Discord clone that we made and stuff like that. It was just like I was trying to figure out, I didn't really use IAM at all. I kind of just made I ended up just making an EC2 instance and kind of like we did in this class, passing around the key to our group through Slack and then opening up the port to only our computer's IP addresses and stuff like that for the SSH port. But that was pretty much it. And I was trying to figure out what would be like the best way for people to go in and manage it. But that was exactly the kind of pitfall we were finding. Is it was like, well, one person has to be the root, has to be, kind of like the bill handler, and then everybody else could, do everything else. But ideally, like we would have, and then in that instance too, it would have made more sense probably for us to like make a whole new set of AWS accounts just for that project. Like, because if I did it from, like my root account as the root of the organization, well, later on down the road, if I, I'm working for another company or I'm like making my own projects, I don't really want those IAM users having admin access to the rest of my stuff later on. You know what I mean? So it was a big learning curve there.
Totally. I believe that today's lesson would have helped a lot then. Okay. And
Exactly.
I understood the situation, the scenario now, EM, so I can probably, kind of be more specific on my suggestions. So in those cases, you are right that you will create different account. So any kind of a unit, separate unit, should be running in a separate account. Okay, and the permissions, okay, you give the users least permissions, least privileges. Don't give any extra permission. Ideally, at the end, no one actually goes and picks every permission level, but generally you give the least amount of permissions. So there it would make sense that you create a different account, okay? And that account right now it could be belonging to you, Tom, but at the end when you are working in a company, okay, it will be belonging to the management at company.com, right? Management owns that. So that's it, right? Management will own that, management will pay the bills, but management will now create multiple accounts. All of them will belong to that management organization. Management will pay the bills, but they will have freedom to work, right? Again, if management feels that, okay, it is too much a task for me to manage bills, management will create another account that may make that account as the billing account, give that account permission to do the billing stuff, but not anything else. Because in AWS, you have freedom to fine-grained controls. You can give billing permission, remove every permission, right?
I have a question. Tom, you shared your root user
No,
keys?
no. We only, I was about to type that out. We only,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's per the EC2. So we only shared the
Oh,
key for
okay.
the EC2.
Okay. I was like, what? Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So this is a way how you can, in fact, plan up. So I think probably this lesson will be very helpful. You can create, groups now. You can give users access to database, some user access to EC2, some user access to actually IAM who can create other users, but not create servers or something. And as you keep growing the large organization, it may become very complicated at the end, right? That someone has access to database, but not database which is in production. Someone has access to production, but he cannot directly log in. So there are various things which happen. Okay, so that was the lesson, everyone, in today's class. Okay, I believe it was pretty long. Okay, generally I don't take that, but all these concepts were so related that at the end I took the whole lesson. Now today we will be going ahead and taking the assignment. Okay, so let's talk about the assignments. Okay, so you have total 3 assignments today. If you end up finishing all 3, let me know. I can give some more. Okay, so the assignment number 1 is fundamentals, which is very easy. You have to just create users, group, give permission, that permission, this, that. Do some conditionals like only East 1 region can do something. So this is the assignment number 1. 2 is about policy creation. Okay, do some allow, do some denies. Some of these conditions are there. 3rd one is a bit tricky. You have to create a front-end developer permission. He has to get this permission, that permission, and apply this to the user and test it. Okay, AWS has a policy simulator. So if you go here, okay, there is a concept of policy simulator. You can simulate, access a policy simulator something. There you can see if the given policy, a given user has this access or not. Okay, so you can do this. That is called access analyzer. Sorry, you can go ahead and click on this one, and it will. Yes, Nika.
Just a quick question, and maybe I kind of just scanned over part of it. Maybe I didn't see it. But are we doing this with the GUI, the console in AWS, or are we doing this through the CLI?
Okay, I will recommend everyone to first do with GUI, okay, with the console, because it is very intuitive and easy to understand. Because our brains understand the visuals more, and once you become free with that, you understand that, then you go ahead and read the CLI documentation, because it is not that easy to write CLI commands. For example, AWS CLI create group and attach policy. Okay, for that you will have to find the command for that and apply that. It is like, for example, showing you using console only. For CLI you have to use this command. So first of all, do it CLI. Okay, once you get done, because CLI is complicated. You have to understand all the flags, where to put which flag. If you make a mistake, probably you may end up doing something undesirable. So first do this CLI console and then CLI.
Okay, thank you.
Right. All right. So, and the last one was this. If you end up doing all 3 assignments, that is very good. And yeah. Okay. So with that, listen. Okay. We will finish this concepts and learning on AWS IAM. Okay. IAM is a big service. Okay. You can, for example, you can see it has some more organization activities, but probably we have covered everything. Okay. Only thing is 1 or 2 things probably which you generally don't need. Oh, really? Wait a second.
Chandra, do you mind if I talk about what they were asking in the chat?
Oh yeah, please. I haven't checked the chat. Let me see the chat messages once.
Okay, so Tom, the where you're asking about multiple pen files. So the way I say that when you're working in a group, especially within this course, is are they still going to be doing just one group project on just one capstone at the end, or are they going to be working more in a group oriented assessments? Chandra.
Yeah. So I think in this particular assignment, today's assignment you're talking about, Edwin?
No, just in general.
In
For their like in their entire course for this cohort, are they going to be working mostly in the groups, or is it still going to be like same way it was last cohort, where they'll have one group project and other 4 are by themselves?
Right. Mostly we'll be following that. So most of the assignments are your self assignments, individual assignments, and
Okay.
projects are like group projects.
Okay, so the way I would suggest that it will work on as a group is you have obviously one person that's going to be the the main person deploying the resources or services of AWS in their account, and the way it could work, where the way you could all work together on it is either you could either create a one user where all you guys have the credentials to be able to log into it, then you'll have you're gonna end up using like Terraform because that's later on to fully automate AWS infrastructure. Where in Terraform there's something called your .tf files and .tf.backup files, where it will take a believe is a JSON structure of your configurations of your Terraform, and you're gonna be storing it on your S3. So that's where that you have 2 options to store those files. Either it's going to be locally in your operating systems, or it could be remote on your S3 bucket. So whenever you guys implement CI/CD, where you guys will be using GitHub Actions to continuously integrate and continuously deploy changes done to your AWS architecture, that it will hit your .tf files that's stored in your S3, and it will update it, getting rid of the issue where you guys are trying to use separate TF configuration files within your operating system on the same account, where it will get you have issues where you get errors to the point where you won't be able to deploy certain resources because the resources are one named or configured exactly the same.
Yeah, because I figured that because once we hit a CI/CD pipeline, that service that holds the key or whatever is actually pushing it in to the instance will be hosted remotely, I'm sure, and like from there it'll be able to apply whatever we need, right? Using our pipeline. But like, because like in our instance, we didn't have anything like that set up yet. And I made another PEM file at first, but like in the EC2 drop down, it wouldn't let me select multiple. It was like, no, you can only have one PEM key associated with this one EC2 instance. So that's where I was like, damn, okay. And I didn't have any sort of like, yeah, like you said, like a pipeline set up to where it would automatically plan and configure. But that makes a lot of sense now. Thank you.
Yeah, and well, if you could work on it, work with that way as well, where if you just want to deploy one EC2 instance, just to mess around with it with each other, and just like deploy certain applications. One thing you could do is create a new PAM file, share that PAM file. You're gonna create an IAM role that allows different AWS accounts. It'll take the account ID and it will allow access to the EC2, allowing them to, with their AWS configuration in their operating system, to be able to SSH into the EC2. If does that sound correct, Chandra?
Totally. I think, Edwin, the way you described and in details, in fact, many of these things which Edwin has described is probably going to be coming later in the course. But I think those concepts will make this process very simplified. For example, Terraform is a very important one, and you can always create like multiple PM files. And the way how it is like, this is a normal server. You can have multiple users, and every user will have their own way of accessing the system. So you can always do that.
Sweet. Thank you.
I guess the part that I'm partially confused on, Chandra, is do you need to shut the server down and create the PIMs or the extra PIMs when the server's being created? Like, I guess if you've already hosted, would you need to shut down and reconfigure essentially? Or can you do it like while it's running, like add another user, create a PIM, and give that user permissions to do things on the EC2 essentially?
Okay, so I think it's typically a bit not recommended and not always done. So generally, you have only one PIM file and you generally use that, and though it can be technically done, okay, and I will have to check like how it is done really, because in Google Cloud they give a direct, straightforward way of doing it. In Google Cloud, you have an option that you can go and upload the public key, and the private key is with you, and you can always access it. Okay, and that way it works. In EC2, it is not directly, so I think I also need to see, because generally what I have seen so far is you just use one PIM file to really go in. And in fact, really what happens is that no one goes inside the real servers, the production servers especially. You use the Ansible, for example. So you give the instructions through Ansible. Ansible goes inside and does those operations for you. No one really SSH into the server and restarts the Apache. That we do for learning purpose, but not really in actually working environment. So, but I think I missed to answer one more part of the question. Can you repeat that?
I'm not sure which part. Sorry.
Okay, did I answer all? Okay, then it is good.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a tricky one, because I have also not done this, okay, before. I think you need to do some hacking thing. For example, create a new another user, and user related accesses can be given, I think, but otherwise EC2 does not give you the default way of doing it, I think. But it's an interesting use case for me as well, because let's say I really want to do it my way, then how do I do it?
It really is like it's funny it came up, but it was like I basically did my group project back in Echo Platoon, and then was working on something with another person, and our project was good, and we deployed it, and it's on our like my portfolio and his portfolio. He got married and was on vacation, and something happened, and our stuff was down, and I knew could fix it, but I couldn't get into the EC2 server. So we were trying to figure out, and that's like really where everything kind of came into. I was like, man, I really wish I set this up a little bit better. But yeah, I was able to figure it out, and we could text and Slack each other. But yeah, it was a little unideal.
Yeah, true. That happens. In fact, many other times what has happened is I created the server. It was a very important server. I lost the key. You know, it's a very common scenario. You can lose the key, right? It's not a big deal to lose the key. And you lost the key, there is no way to get it. You can't call AWS and give me the key. I lost it. Doesn't work. So it is a, though there is a way. In fact, the use case here was that can multiple people log in? There is, in fact, let me show you that. And that is called SSM. Okay, so again, this is beyond our scope of the curriculum. But since this conversation is happening, and I have gone through it, I've used it, and very useful thing. So this actually works. So here, if you see, there is something called session manager. So what in SSM this was the most complicated lesson to teach, by the way. Every time I have taught like how this trend end up like not understanding completely. So what happens in SSM actually is a way, it's a AWS service to manage fleet of servers. For example, let's say you have one server, you can manage it. What if you have 100 servers? You want to update every server at once. You can do that. Ansible is one way, right? But many other things, for example, you want to patch the servers. SSM comes in picture. What SSM does is that here you first of all create a fleet. In the fleet, you add all your servers that, okay, all the servers with this key are the part of the fleet. And then you access those fleet, and using that way, you can do anything. Okay, so you can directly do SSH without the key actually. So the SSM is the way, and how it does it, it sits as an agent inside the server and authenticates you to give you the access. And one of the use cases is what the problem Phil you faced is I lost the key. So the way how SSM will help you is that SSM will go and it will talk to the SSM agent sitting inside the server, okay? And using that, you will go inside, and in that path, .ssh path, you have the key saved, right? You will go and delete the key. You put the another key, and you come out. And now again, you log in using that, and that works, right? So that is a key way of doing it.
Can you do that retroactively? Does the server have to first be part of the fleet and then you can do that? Or can you do that? Oh no, I lost my key. Wait, I can put this into my fleet and then do all that. Can I do it retroactively?
Yeah, you can do React actually. I mean, you don't need to be really prepared for this. You first do the accident and you come here, it will help you fix that. Yeah, so here it has like a lot of things. There is this command. So command runner, okay. So you can see this one. No one really knows about this service much. No one uses this service, or this is like a very interesting service. So this will help you run any command anywhere in any server. Okay, so for example, one of the key could be like copy. I think there is some command called copy. Yeah, copy file system items. You run this command, you give your own key, it will go and copy inside that server and replace that the key, the public key, it will replace that public key. Server will never know what happened to it. You log in with new SSH, it will let you go in. There is one more way, by the way. There is one more way that is even more hacky. Do you want to know that?
Yeah, we're recording all this, right?
Of course.
You mind if I take a hack at it? Couldn't you just create a golden image of whatever your the instance that's running? Create a golden image, change the PEM file, and let it add it to the target group if it has an autoscaler attached, EC2 autoscaler attached to it. Then later it'll be part of the traffic flow now when you deploy it using the different snapshot.
Yeah, I think that is definitely that should work, Edwin. I think, but you don't need the auto scaling or anything here. I mean, AMI you can create, Edwin, as you were saying, but you don't need really the auto scaling and all. What you can really do is you can create AMI and you can launch a new instance based on that. Okay, but problem is that once you create AMIs, okay, you cannot again SSH into this, because the AMI which comes will again have the same keys inside, right?
Oh, okay.
Right, because AMI is just the snapshot, and that snapshot also you lost the key. The new comes that has the same snapshot. You still don't have the key. Okay, so tell me,
Mm,
but Edwin, that was a very close. That was a very good answer, by the way. Very good try. Very close.
almost.
Almost close, yeah. But there is a slight change. If you doing this hack, you can get the still done. Anyone who wants to try? What else can we do? Some other hacky ways. I have EC2 server. I lost the key. Think. Have you seen this movie, The Social Network? There is a scene, right? That you have to go and let me